Вот документы, все чисто. Проверяйте.
Уже проверили.
Что машина в залоге.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Да у нее пробег почти нулевой. Посмотрите.
А мы уже смотрим.
Что пробег скручен.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Ни единой царапины. Видите?
Ага, видим.
Что она была в ДТП 5 раз?
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые любители автомобильного спорта!
Oh, dear lovers of car racing and drifting, welcome to the Red Ring, the epicenter and the birthplace of all Russian drift. I'm the luckiest man on earth because on one hand I have the best spectators in the world looking at me. On the other hand, I have the best drifters on the planet Earth. Let me introduce them to you. Traditionally, the first team, FAL crew and pilots from Krasnoyarsk, Arkady Gusev. By his side, the representative of Irkutsk and the winner of today's qualifiers, Evgeny Losev. Not immediately, but I am sure that this pilot from Barnaul, Ivan Nikulin, found his way in the team. He's the acting champion of RDS Siberia, by the way. Right on time, he switched from kickboxing to drifting. Stepan Azarov from Moscow. Introducing this man, I say the word champion so many times. 2 times champion of RDS Russia and acting champion of RDS Grand Prix and acting world champion, Grigory Gusev. Right from fishing, we welcome this pilot preparing for Top Monster 32, Vladimir Chivchan. At every stage, we meet this pilot, normally with a laptop and a very thoughtful expression on his face, and now he's wearing the racing overalls. Denis Panamarov. Very lucky supplement to Forward Auto team. The only Nikita out of 2 Nikitas in his team. The team Nova Viper Racing, 2-time vice champion of RDS Russia, Nikita Chekov. The leader of RDS Grand Prix 2019, Fresh Auto, and the first among them, a local guy, Damir Idiatulin. If Damir is a really famous personality, this is a legendary one, a legendary drifter from Japan, Tatsuya Hibino. As I always like repeating, this is the man. Without him, no Fresh Auto would happen. Denis Migal. This is a real guy who is not so easy to break. Fyodor Vorobyov from Moscow riding his famous Vaz. And now we move on forward to our team from Irkutsk. If we ask him whether he is a relative of our referee Dobrovolsky, then no, he's not. Anton Dobrovolsky from Irkutsk. One more representative of the wonderful city of Irkutsk. He was very good at qualifiers. Maxim Grossman. We're waiting for your new achievements. And our mini sensation of the qualifiers, we were very nicely surprised at this guy from Khabarovsk, Anton Dubovik. From the city of Nakhodka, he came with 3 cars, Grigory Gusev. We've known him for a very long time, and all of us fear meeting him at the competitions. Dmitry Yermohin from Krasnoyarsk. The next one in the team named after one very famous energy drink, a delegation from the beautiful country of Kazakhstan, 2-time champion of his country, Anton Avdeyev. Organizer of the championship in his country, Artyom Chekmenyov. And the vice champion of Kazakhstan, Anton Sharipov. Driving a unique Subaru Forester car. Everyone who is here, come here and touch it. It is almost made of paper, it's so light, but looking so good. And together with him, supported with the same energy drink, our favorite 2-time champion of the Russian Drift Series, Yevgeny Ruzheynikov. The team that is the acting champion of Russian Drift Series in the team events. This number 13, this guy is carrying. We believe that he's from Vladivostok, Ilya Fedorov. According to our old tradition, according to which all girls doing drift are called Katya, we introduce you this beautiful girl from St. Petersburg, Yekaterina Naboychenko, from Yekaterinburg. Another true cult personality, a champion of Grand Prix and the winner of the American Formula Drift, Daigo Saito. With great surprise, I found out this guy was 35 years old, just 35, and already 35. He has taken part in lots of championships. Charles N. from China. One car, one pilot. The second one is hiding somewhere. But the car is from Golovnya and the guy is from Riga, Krzysztof Splush. Yes, here he is. Just look at him at the last minute. We had to recall that this guy used to be the champion of Latvia, Edmunds Erglis. He finally made his way to top 32 in his last attempt, but let's see what's going to happen next. We see each other very seldom. We are very happy to see him every time. Armen Arutyunyan from Novosibirsk. And to continue, meeting the representatives of this beautiful city, one more representative of Novosibirsk, Yevgeny Spirin. This is a family of drifters representing Tuning Factory team, the people from Vladivostok. Vice champion of RDS East, Yekaterina Sedych.
And
the guy who picked up the flag of the champion, Maxim Sidikh. I know you've had 2 fires for 2, but let's keep it up in a different way, though. We are ready to move forward. This team joined us at this stage. It is called Fit Service, and under number 96, it is represented by Artur Volchansky from the city of Novosibirsk. I was surprised to find out that geographically this city is in Asia, but this is Yekaterinburg. Andrei Astapov from the city of Yekaterinburg, he also brought 2 cars here, and for some time he wasn't out which one he should select, and finally he ended up with a Lexus. From one stage to another, this guy performs better and better. At the previous stage, his performance was just magic. This is Aybar Mustakimov from Kazan. And very humbly, at the very end, or at the very beginning, depending on how you look at it, representative of Mongolia, who we're very happy to welcome, the pilot and creator of a racing track on his motherland, a great activist of this kind of sport, Erhem Bayar Davadorj. In his team, he is just called Zorik, but he is Zorik Tarhamdavar. Guys, come back soon. We'll be very happy to meet you. And together with the cameraman, we are going back to the center. We know that we are waited for. We kept looking for them all around the territory, trying to keep them together. And I know that they are ready to appear on the screens and to welcome you, the people who are doing a very hard work at the roof of pit building of the Red Ring under the heavy winds. I spent several hours with them yesterday, and I was really happy when I could hide in my commentators' booth. Our wonderful judges. Give them a round of applause. Let's begin from here. Our big friend, because after so many times he has become our friend, Robbie Nishida from Japan. Now it's very simple. This is our man. He lives in Odessa in Ukraine, 3-time champion of his country in draft, a very experienced referee, Alexander Grinchuk. At this moment, he's not a referee, but our real mascot. He had a birthday not so long ago, so let's give him a round of applause. What would we do without you, Timofey Kosharny, St. Petersburg? And finally, the man who, to all of his responsibilities, added a job of a referee, a champion of Russia in motorsport, Master of Sports, Dmitry Dobrovolsky. And traditionally, we gave you this microphone for a welcoming word. Hello, Krasnoyarsk, the cradle of all Russian drift. I believe that thanks to you and thanks to your energy, such great talents are growing here. These are geniuses of drift, and it is always a great pleasure for me to come here to this amazing track, which this year has been renovated. The racing track has been improved, which enabled us to make such a high quality and high speed track that everyone enjoyed today. And of course, the winner of the qualifiers, Yevgeny Losev, loved it, even though he is not from Krasnoyarsk, but he comes from a city that is practically next door from you. We're very grateful to you. We'd like to express our respect for supporting Russian drift, for being here, because without you, it would never happen. I wish a lot of drift for everyone. Dmitry Dobrovolsky for you, ladies and gentlemen, and according to our old tradition, at the end of our opening ceremony, please rise to the national anthem of the Russian Federation.
Мы гордимся тобой, Россия! И с гордостью за свою страну объявляем 5-й этап РДС Гран-при открытым! С новым дрифтом Красноярск! Спасибо, спасибо.
Ни единой царапины. Видите?
Ага, видим.
Что она была в ДТП 5 раз.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
We are back to the red ring. We are about to continue the 5th stage of RDS Grand Prix 2019. Not so long ago, the pilots had a solo round that we call the Qualifier. So now this is the time for the first heat round, the first tandem runs that is supported by our sponsor. And after the monster is called Black Monster Top 32. The top 32 was selected out of 35. And according to our tradition, the first tandem of the competitors to get into top 16 are Evgeny Losev from Fail Crew team and the pilot that occupied the 32nd place, who just lacked 1 point to move Anton Sharimov a little bit and to decrease the advantage of Kazakhstan to only 1 pilot. So ironically, in top 32, he will run together with Evgeny Rozhenikov, and the irony is that they're both supported by the same sponsor, even though formally it is not an inter-team derby, but there is some little similarity in the decoration of their cars. It is impossible not to notice. Evgeny Losev and Andreas Stapov are already at the starting gate. The cars are standing one after another because first they will do a warm-up. We call it warm-up just like in the round runs, even though it is not absolutely related to any warming up. But this is an opportunity for the pilots to try the asphalt with the tires. It is already 17:38 here, and the asphalt, which has been absorbing the solar energy, is now cooling down, which requires some certain experience from the drivers to keep on. It requires some certain sense of how to operate the tires, what to do with the pressure to keep proper friction and to keep the car under control. To keep the car under control. I'm sorry for the pause. There is a little technical problem. Very often from the pilots we can see that the victories may be too hard or the fails may be unexpected due to the wrong pressure in the tires. Either you have decreased it too much, hoping for some certain condition of the asphalt, or vice versa, half an atmosphere more or less, and it results in some unexpected circumstances, like one more time with an obviously weaker opponent or a certain sensation or mini sensations or large sensations. But this or that way, the top 32 round often makes pilots more nervous than ever, because this is a very hard failure. It is always very hard to take. So this is the stage which, on one hand, if you look at it from a beginner's point of view, it may look just as a formality, especially for those who are already leaders in their individual scale. They say top 32 is just nothing, and after that we will do some serious racing. But speaking about leaders, Georgy Chivchan is opposed by Dmitry Yermohin, and Gocha is an acting champion and a leader in the points, but no pilot would say that Dmitry Yermohin is an easy opponent. Battle with him is not a formality. Here you have to prove that Gocha really deserves a place in top 16. What if he doesn't manage? What if he fails Some people say that he is not really fit this time, but these are only gossips because Katya would never be a good champion if he wasn't able to concentrate at the right moment. So everything coincides in favor of Grigory Gusev. We've got an enormous rotation of pilots at top 4 stage, but Grigory Gusev has got the largest number of victories, and he is the absolute leader among the pilots. Also, as a result of the qualifier, Hibino is the first one, and he is the nearest opponent of Gorga, but there's 132 points between them, so that is a serious gap. Obviously, the winner of this stage will get 200 points, but you first need to become that leader. You need certain conditions for your opponent not to get a certain amount of points, and counting on the failure of Grigory Gusev would be kind of unreasonable. Let me remind you that Grigory Gusev has already won at the first stage, Moscow Raceway, that in Nizhny Novgorod, he was also the winner. He was lucky indeed because Arkady Tsarigradsev collided with Hibino and he couldn't enter the final battle against Gorga, Grigory Gusev, but at Moscow Raceway, the victory was absolutely fair, and it was achieved in a very difficult battle with Yevgeny Losev. He's also on track today, and he is coming back to the pre-start area. Please pay attention. We can see the competition table, and then we will take a look at the pit lane where the mechanics are, where the pit stop zone is. The short stop is. Andrei Astapov is now entering it, so he cannot stay there for 1 minute. If he does, automatically he will be deemed to have used his competition timeout, the 5-minute timeout. So timekeeping here is really critical. It would be preferable not for the pilot himself to do it, but to be assisted by someone else, like mechanics, for instance. The mechanics or spotters or assistants or whoever, because the pilot's nerves are really alert, and this is not the best condition for timekeeping. Regulation is very strict. 1 minute, 1 second is enough to consider the pilot to have used his competition timeout. And you know that you can use it only once during a competition day. So clearly, Yevgeny Astapov and Yevgeny Losev have only one battle, only one round, but tomorrow they need to be very careful about it. Very careful about when and how and what for to use the competition timeout, and what they can do for the car in 1 minute. And only if the problem is really serious, then they can use those 5 minutes. And again, we understand that there will be no other chance. Yevgeny Losev from Fail Crew team against Andrei Astapov, Irkutsk and Yekaterinburg. The representatives of these two cities are in the first tandem round. Let me remind you the rule. The leader is Yevgeny Losev. The leader needs to move in accordance with the qualification task. The qualification was not so long ago, and I'm sure that everyone remembers how it is done. The task is clear. The chaser must go and mimic all the moves of the leader with a similar, the same or larger drifting angle. Of course, it is not an easy task, let's be honest with each other. But what can we do? They have to do that. No respect zone. And now we dive in. Dive into the first clipping zone. Yevgeny Losev, Astapov is lost in the smoke. He failed to do the transition. It looks like a technical problem. Andrei Astapov is getting on the right line, continuing with the wrong angle, very shallow. It doesn't really look easy, even though the distance is now bigger, it doesn't grow anymore. The distance between the car has been stabilized by Andrei Astapov, but it was done not at the moment when it was supposed to be done, and not at the right state, not in the right situation already. Here he got lost to the got lost from the line and missed out the transition moment. And then he came back on the line, and it made me think that the problem was with the car, but then he continued going even though the angle was shallow. It looked like a failed attempt to get Losev, but getting Losev when he is rushing like this is a utopia. Either you need to pick up the tempo from the very beginning, or you fail, or it just doesn't work, as it didn't work for Andrei Astapov right now. There were many problems. Andrei Astapov was going to use Lada Vesta car, which was freshly customized. We saw it really raw in Daigo Saito's hands at the previous stage in Raceway. And at first the car looked okay, but then there was a really strange problem with the engine control block. They've been looking for the reason for a long time, but finally they found some problem in the electronics. Something just got reset, and as a result it was resolved to take the Lexus, and Lexus is not really fit. So that is a sad situation. There are two cars, but none of them worked properly. But this is not the end. Now Evgeny Losev will have to mimic the tempo of Andrei Astapov. As for the speeds, Losev was faster, but not that much. 154 kilometers per hour against 151 kilometers per hour. That is damp system. That tells me the data. If you take a look at the cars, there's those little orange boxes with antennas. They transmit the telemetric information to an information system, and then in some tricky way through the 25 satellites and the World Wide Web, I get all this information to my monitor. And it works really fast, especially if we take into consideration how hard it is for those data to get here. This system is also used by the referees, but not directly. They do not use it as a judging tool. They just use it for the reference, just to check their own feelings, so they cannot implement it to the full scale. And we don't know when they can actually use it to the full. There is no news about it in Russian drift, but let's just breathe in, breathe out. Drift is safe anyway. Now we go. Andrei Astapov is the leader. Evgeny Losev is the chaser. He goes right behind him. Evgeny Losev, Mark II. They are going in sync. Transition in sync, coming a little bit closer. The very, very vague transitions makes Evgeny Astapov and Losev didn't really expect the move to be like this, but he came really close. Chose a little bit in a wood line in the third sector, and the last transition to touch and go sector was done right by Evgeny Losev without risking too much. Evgeny Losev deserves a round of applause from you, and I suspect that the referees won't have to discuss it for a very long time. Everything looks pretty clear. Let me remind you that if during the qualifiers every referee was responsible for one criterion, now the referees just make a general decision who, in their opinion, should pass on to the next round. And the opinion of the referees will be now shown us in a graphic way. Evgeny Losev appears after Andrei Astapov. They come to the pit lane and stops by the mechanics. The next pair of the pilots is already in the pre-start zone. Denis Ponomaryov and Daigo Saito from AML Racing Russia. Of course, first we watch the replay of the previous run. We will see what the referees decided. What was their final verdict? I cannot say it beforehand. I cannot say it out loud before you see it, even if I know it. So I will keep it a secret for you, but I know that many of you actually understand what it can be. If Astapov didn't make such big mistakes on the borderline between the first and the second sectors, it could have been different. But unanimously, Evgeny Losev is the first participant that gets into top 16. Let's give a round of applause to Andrei Astapov and his team. It wasn't an easy stage for them. That was quite hard for them to go through the qualifiers. Even getting into those qualifiers was challenging. And I believe that Andrei experienced all the problems today, and it was psychologically hard for him, I believe. He's been struggling as much as he could, and he also got on Losev. And Losev on this track was just so much eager to be here. He was struggling for his backward rides and struggling to make it without losing any tempo. During briefing, he actually said it out loud that if for any reason the angle may get more than 90 degrees, if it happens, but at the same time there is no crazy corrections or any other things that may impede the other participant, then it's okay. You can do your backward. Go on with it. Daigo Saito is now the warm-up at the speed of 161 kilometers per hour. Let me remind you that the absolute record of this weekend now belongs to Arkady Tsarigradzev, which is 162.2 kilometers per hour of initial speed. That was very close to Saito. Denis Ponomarov was 148.3. These numbers really do not mean anything. I just say it for the mere curiosity. Let's just see how it works during the battle. And Saito is not the leader at the beginning. He begins as a chaser. Denis Ponomarov was number 16 and Saito was 17, rated 17. So Denis will be the leader in the first round of the tandem run at the beginning of this heat. Let me remind you that 2 runs of one pair of pilots is called a heat according to our regulations. So if you hear this term, you know that heat is not about weather. Daigo Saito is on the right. Denis Ponomarov is on the left. These cones are not the respect zone. The pilots must run in at the full speed. The cones just denote the 2 lanes, not to let the pilots cross the lanes, not to let any incidents like that we had between Aruzhenikov and Diatula in the previous stage, when the judges had to watch replays over and over again to see who one was the violator. These are the beautiful girls from our sponsor, Black Monster, and this round is called Black Monster Top 32. And the pilots are now fighting for their way to top 16. Denis Ponomarov as a leader, Toyota Mark II, followed by Altezza with a crazy American engine driven by Daigo Saito Furidashi, so powerful and fast. The first transition, one more insane drift. There is a little contact, knocked at the door, Sayata-san. They're switching and sync. The third clipping zone is done and one more transition, after which only touch and go is left. Denis Ponomarov didn't expect it from Daigo and he had to do it, and the last touch and go was missed as far as I could see. Now let's see it once again. In a very relaxed way, without any extra moves. Saito is mimicking the moves of his leader. 184 kilometers per hour was the speed. Very careful, conducts like Denis, I'm here. Just with one wheel, Daigo missed the white line, but the chaser is allowed to do this if the distance between the cars is minimal, and it was really minimal. Ponomarov got in the touch and go zone, but it was done without the necessary angle. Also so sad, so he totally spoiled a very nice round as a leader. But Daigo has proven that this is not a coincidence that he carries the title of that he carries a title of a very high title of a very high ranked drifters, an achievement of a unique achievement that hasn't been repeated by anyone. He was the winner of D1 in Japan and Formula Drift in the US. To make his crown triple, he lacks the RDS Grand Prix champion title, but looks like not this season. But who knows? Who knows? With these double points, anything can happen. Also, Krasnodar points haven't been played, and it will continue tomorrow. But at least now, Daigo Saito is the leader. And we see that Ponomarov was running at 14 kilometers per hour slower than Daigo, and now Denis needs to prepare for the tempo of the Japanese, who from the very beginning, making these sparkles, runs forward past the first section to the second flipping zone. At least 3 bodies in between them. There's a very big gap, the third flipping zone. There is nothing Ponomaryov can do with the tempo of Daigo, but well, at least someone had to compete with him, otherwise it wouldn't be possible. And Daigo is one of the fastest pilots, 161 kilometers per hour, and 150 was the speed of Denis Ponomaryov, and this is not the largest difference possible. Because if we take a look at this speed chart, the initiation speed chart, that can be very different. The gap between the fastest and the slowest exceeds 20 kilometers per hour. It was a really fast discussion in between the referees. Again, there was nothing to discuss. Of course, the referees watched the replays just for mere formality to make a more precise assessment, to see any critical mistakes. But Daigo Saito is announced the winner of this tandem run. Let's give a round of applause to Denis Ponomaryov. It is very hard to return into the team, also to such a team as his. It is a very strong team, and got into such a battle. That is a hard combat that would be very hard to bear. And now these 2 pilots with the similar sponsors logos, Evgeny Rozheynikov, Moscow, 2-time winner of Russian Rift Series, and Anton Avdeyev, number 85 from Almaty, Kazakhstan, also a 2-time champion of his country. 4 titles for 2, that is an interesting derby. So now we will compare the level of champions and the championships. Anton Avdeyev drives a Toyota Drueno. It's a Hachiroko that everyone knows, one of the versions of Hachiroko. 550 horsepower engine. The transmission that is normally known as the diesel BMW, which is standard for brick. And there is a very interesting suspension from Sylvia and from Mazda Imperia. A combined one. For a very long time they were studying different components, and Rozheynikov drives a Silver S15, 900 Newton meters of torque and 612 horsepower. So he has the advantage. Evgeny went very nice after the nozzle had been replaced and the engine began to breathe. Now let's see what is going to happen in this first round. Rozheynikov as the leader goes forward so far away. The initiation, the first clipping zone, the first transition, but it doesn't really work for Anton. He cannot reduce the distance. Rozheynikov could have been wider and further in the next clipping zone. Touch and go, done, and then there comes this huge, long 30-meter clipping zone with the number 3 and only 1 touch and go to the finish. But unfortunately, a real tandem run just didn't work. And the reason should be looked for not in the experience of the 2 pilots, but also in the mere horsepowers and Newton meters. Because 550 and 880 are both very powerful engines, but Evgeny Rozheynikov, even without a sequential transmission, could do it. And Anton's car is lighter, 1,290 against 1,369, but the equipment, the horsepowers of Rozheynikov is more. Even though it is not so radical, it is still very considerable. Both of them stop in the pit stop zone. Unfortunately, I cannot see the table, the screen. 15, 14, 13, the countdown. Yeah, now I see. And just 8 seconds before this 1 minute interval, Yevgeny Rozheynikov and Anton Avdeyev after him start from where they were. So the first run showed the difference between the capacity. Avdeyev wasn't driving bad, it was too far. Rozheynikov was the 8th after the qualifiers, Avdeyev was the 25th. And we continue. Avdeyev takes the place on the left and Rozheynikov takes the place on the right. The discussions about who starts from where were not that long. And here we go. Now Rozheynikov doesn't let Anton Avdeyev go too far. He just needs to give some space for the leader. And a Furidashi in sync. Yevgeny almost loses his car. The driver of Sylvia S15 goes after. The line is narrower. I think that for their own safety, they do it this way. Yevgeny Rozheynikov chose his tactics and does everything absolutely right. And by the finish, he just spins around, spins out. Rozheynikov could feel it was coming and left some space for his colleague. And Avdeyev also took the cone, maybe as a souvenir to take to Kazakhstan. Oh no, the cone decided to stay here in Siberia. I can foresee a very short discussion of the referees. Our top 16 is so beautiful. Evgeny Losev against Daiga Slida. That is gonna be amazing. This is a stimulus for all of you to come tomorrow. Give a round of applause to Anton Avdeyev. Thank you for coming. Now the cone is coming back to its place and we will continue after the replay. The referees have already issued their verdict and now it will be presented to all of you if it is not clear to you yet. If you want to make sure that you are right. Yevgeny Spirin against Denis Smigal, and here is the verdict. Let's thank the national team of Kazakhstan represented by Anton Avdeyev. He was the only one who made his way to top 32, but he got to Rozheynikov, who is the two-time champion, so I believe it's all fair, and Rozheynikov with a big advantage wins this tandem run, becoming the third participant of top 16 by Aimal. His opponent will be either Yevgeny Spirin from Novosibirsk or Denis Smigal from Moscow. So let's see their cars. 2JZ on Toyota Alta of Spirin, LS3 at the car of Denis Smigal. 700 horsepower against 550 with the advantage in favor of Denis. Let's see the weight. For some reason, I do not see the figures. I do not see the numbers of Yevgeny Spirin. Let's check it out. I have a special secret database where I keep my protocols. Yes, really, there are no numbers. But whatever, if Yevgeny Spirin gets to top 16, I promise to know everything about this car by tomorrow, including its weight. Yevgeny Spirin looked not that evenly in the trainings, but he performed well in the qualifiers. And as for Denis, is almost a regular resident here. He spent all winter in Krasnoyarsk competing in Winter Drift battle. And by the way, Yevgeny Losev won the Winter Championship 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was 3 times. Correct. Yevgeny Spirin got qualified as the 9th, and Denis is the 25th. Here's the introduction. Here are the girls who remind us where the leader is and where the chaser is. The leader starts where the blonde girl is. The light goes green and the cars rush in. Yevgeny Spirin leads the tandem to the Furdash zone with a very expansive but clear look. Denis chooses the right distance. He doesn't let his opponent go. But look what is happening. Miguel is out of track, but returns to the line. If he was the first, it would have been an unchaseable run, but now it's just a critical mistake that makes the task very difficult. It makes very difficult for Denis to get to the next stage. The speed at the initiation stage is in favor of Spirin. Let's watch it once again. This is how the chasers normally behave, so that was actually right. But here he was a little bit late with the transition, and then it all went wrong. But finally, he returned back on track, so it is very hard to concentrate after such a failure, after such a bad incident. But the angle of Spirin was kind of shallow, and the judges may issue a penalty on him for this reason. So let's watch the replay one more time. Let's pay more attention to the leader. A little correction and shift inwards that doesn't really contradict to the referee's task. So it was a compact transition by Yevgeny Spirin. And I guess this is not what Denis expected. It would be interesting to see what the referees would say about this. Obviously, that may be the moment when we ask the referees to give any comments on air. Of course, if nothing wrong is happening in the next round, that can make the entire system more clear or easier to interpret. Denis Miguel is on the screens at the moment. He's the founder of Fresh Auto team, but he doesn't really participate for it. There are other racers who bring the points to this team. He performs on his own. Yes, really, that it would be not the right behavior for the royalty to work for the team. So we are ready. The light goes green. Timofey, we will listen to Timofey later. No, wait, that is the red flag. The run is stopped. All right, so that was a good reaction. They saved the tires because for the third run it may be not enough. It is never enough because the asphalt here is pretty rough. And those who wear Achilles tires say that the third run is normally out of order. Now Timofey Kasharny. This is his time. This is your time on air. This is Yevgeny Losev by my side. Hello, everyone. Come on, Zhenya. Just say it really fast. How is your mood? What's going on?
We just lost 65 kilos of weight. We're doing fine. The battle was serious, but it was very enjoyable. Alright, so that is a very short interview. Jenny, you're doing really great. Thank you for the great qualifications, and we continue watching. Thank you. Timofey Kasharny and Yevgeny Losev were on air. And now the start of the second tandem run. There must have been some misunderstanding. And the racers started without the command, which is wrong. You never do it this way. So one more time, here are the pilot, Denis Migal and Yevgeny Spirin. Krasnoyarsk is not the residence of Spirin. This is just the place where the fifth stage of RDS Grand Prix 2019 takes place. And Spirin is having some problems with the run in. Denis Migal went far, far away from him. You need to catch up with him. Yevgeny needs to catch up. Go faster, but he doesn't see any way to do it. This is the compromise, what we are seeing at the moment. This is a mistake, but it's a small mistake that can let you come closer to show real tandem run. The third clipping zone is left behind, and here comes the finish. Whoa. Now I can see that the referees need to discuss it really seriously. The initiation speed of Spirin was not that lower as Denis, 144 against 139 kilometers per hour. But it gives me the sensation that he just missed the right moment. How could he do that? It was the green light and the BMW that just rushes away. That is very clear that the run has already begun. How could he miss it? But now the referees need to compare the mistake of Denis Migal and see how much it was provoked by the actions of the leader. And the second run that cannot even be referred to as a tandem run. In the meanwhile, Damir Diatulin is coming for the warm-up, where his opponent, his opponent, who is a lady, Yekaterina Sidych, the referees requested for the replay of the both runs, and let's watch it together with them. Why not? So I don't see anything so criminal about the actions of Spirin. I do not really see what is happening because my screen, the commentators booth, doesn't really work. So just as a spectator, I am just watching it from this huge screen, but due to the geometric reasons, it's too far away and it appears too small for me, as big as a matchbox, if anyone remembers how it looks. Yes, I would be very interested to hear what the referees would say about this. On one hand, Denis almost caught up with his opponent, but on the other hand, the mistake was really there. And also, versus it, we have one more run that was not really a tandem run. Those were just desperate attempts for Denis to catch up with his opponent, but it didn't really finish successfully. And Denis is not taking off his helmet. I wonder why. Even if there is one more time, still he needs to wait for it. Evgeny Losев is standing by his side, providing him with psychological support. Timofey Kasharny is there with Evgeny Rozhenikov, waiting for a break when we can talk to each other and to us, to all of us. As far as I can see, we are gonna hear the verdict very soon, and obviously it is not unanimous. It is not unanimous, but it is binding for everyone. Alexander Grinchuk preferred Denis, but Robin Ishida and Dmitry Dobrovolsky together send this pair to one more time. But maybe it is better because the result really was not clear and it was hard to say who is the winner. But looking at the qualifiers and the trainings of this pilot, we can say that we should have expected a more interesting battle for a place in top 16, for the right to combat against Evgeny Rozhenikov, by whose side Timofey Kasharny is now standing. But since the warm-up has already happened and this tandem is ready and we have been officially introduced to Damir Idiatulin from Fresh Outer Team and Yekaterina Siddig from Tuning Factory, we are ready to see what they are ready to show in the first run, where Damir Idiatulin will be the leader. He was qualified the 4th. Initiation was just perfect by Damir Idiatulin. And the black sky somewhere in the smoke, and there is a contact, and Yekaterina stops. Yes, unfortunately, the wheel is broken against the door of the opponent. Such contacts happen quite often, even if they're not intensive. They can cause breakdowns. Yes, and the attempts of steering the Skyline do not finish successfully, and Damir also had such a problem not so long ago during the training. But well, it wouldn't last long. It is done really quick. It's very good that we are just speaking about the front suspension, because it will just include the replacement of the wheel. And Yekaterina is about to come to the pit lane, and obviously she will go directly to the maintenance zone where the mechanics are. Oh no, she's in the pit stop. The tire is taken off. The steering rod will be replaced. And we start a small interview with Evgeny Rozhenikov. Several races before he got into the top 16. How do you like Krasnoyarsk and the weather here? I really love Krasnoyarsk. All of you know this. Thank you, Krasnoyarsk. Thank you for your warm welcome. We've been here since Tuesday. It's very hard. I don't really sleep, but I really enjoy the city. There are lots of things to do here. The track is amazing. At my first run, that little piece of asphalt that you lacked finance to cover, I jumped up maybe 1 meter and I saw a dent like this one. Then I pressed gas carefully, then stronger and stronger. It was okay, but still this little hole in the asphalt caused a big problem for me. Yes, but it worked the way it worked. And tomorrow, what do you think it's going to be like? It's going to be like what it's going to be like. All clear. Thank you. Timofey Kosharny and Evgeny Ruzheynikov were on air. Yes, this is a technical problem for Yekaterina Sidikh, and there is no one to blame besides herself. Damir Idiatulin will now show us the Byron go solo just to finish his way to top 16. There was a chance for a family derby in the top 16 because there is Maxim Sidikh and the next tandem against Artur Volchansky, and if he breaks into top 16, he may do a vendetta on Damir. Damir Idiatulin from Fresh Auto team officially is now in IML top 16. And we are ready to continue. Black Monster top 32 round. The next tandem is warming up. Maxim Sidikh from Tuning Factory Vladivostok and Artur Volchansky, Feed Service team from Novosibirsk. Not bad for Maxim. A good run in for this round. Let's see how fast it was. Almost 160 kilometers per hour, 157.3. Not bad. Not bad. And we are again on air. Denis. Let me remind you, this is Denis Smigal. After, what is your mood? That's great. Now I see what I'm required to do, and I will do it. What happened during the run? What problems did you face? I had no problems at all. You know, when I was the leader, he didn't let me go. He was going out of track, and due to him, I couldn't do it in the best way. But I think that if no one could understand that, I would just be more careful next time. You just need to make it more obvious next time. I agree with you. Thank you, Denis. I wish you good luck. Timofey Kosharny and Denis Smigal were just on air with us. But in the meanwhile, Maxim Sidikh and Artur Volchansky have finished their introductory rides on the cooling down asphalt. Unfortunately, I do not have any temperature sensor. I cannot tell you the temperature, but I think it is obvious due to the law of nature. It is supposed to cool down, and I guess this is what is happening. The tactics of the pilots was different. Artur decided not to go too fast on this warming up round, and now let's see how fast he can go when he is required to do so, especially considering that Maxim has just showed a very impressive speed, 157 kilometers per hour. Now, I think we can even take a look into the chart and see what was there. What was for no, I have no data for Volchansky. Officially, the pilots have been introduced. We can see the two cars with two JZ engines. Almost identical capacity, but Maxim Sidikh is a little bit more powerful because the car is a little lighter. But it is not a very big advantage, 1,413 against 1,400. 3 reds, 1 green. Maxim Sidikh is the leader, taking this stand-up to the first clipping zone, and that is a serious speed advantage despite the little capacity difference. This is the first clipping zone. That is a serious shift into the inner zone, but he had the right to do so. Here he has shallowed the line a little bit, but Artur is still dragging behind Maxim, so he needs to try hard, at least around the third clipping zone, the last transition in this run, and the distance between the cars is growing again. So whenever there was no other option to choose the line for Artur, Maxim would get on the next gear that was almost space gear, space speed, to increase the distance. Interestingly, the second sensor didn't really show anything, only 156 kilometers per hour Maxim, almost the same as he had during the warm-up. And as for Artur's car, I cannot get any information, and that's a big pity because I would be really interested to know and to compare the speeds to see whether the difference was as big as it seemed to be. Let me remind you that the distance from Furidash zone to finish is 525 meters. Artur was trying to do the transitions in sync, but it was not in sync enough to impress the referees. Let's see how it's gonna work after the pilots switch their roles. And this is Yekaterina sitting by my side, the heroine of the previous tandem. Katya, please tell me what happened. That was a very close tandem drift, but it didn't last long. At least it was spectacular. It was awesome. You did really great. Thank you for coming. The stands, the spectators, all the participants are always happy to see you. Just look how they're waving at you. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. So this is it, Kola. We can continue. Yekaterina Sidikh was just on air, always keeping up the positive vibes. Now she will support her husband, who is gonna face a very difficult task to adjust to the speed of Artur Volchansky, who, as we could see, is a little slower than Maxim Sidikh on this track. The pilots have taken their places. The referee is checking whether the pilots are ready. They are, and the electronic brain is given the command to switch the red with green, and the pilots go off. Maxim Sidikh goes after Artur a little bit late with the transition, but then he found himself right by the board of Altezza. Artur dropped the speed really considerably, even though the deceleration zone will be much later. But Maxim has handled the situation and keeps on chasing in a very synchronous manner. One more transition and the fourth sector, which is the finishing zone. And yes, Maxim didn't go to the last touch and go zone, but I believe that this is not gonna be problematic for the referees. But let's watch the replay. So now we can find out the initiation speed of Artur, 147.5. So Maxim was almost 10 kilometers per hour faster when he was the leader, and now he had to adjust to the leader being a chaser to mimic his moves. Ivan Nikolin is warming up from Fail Crew. And Arkady Tsarigradsev, he has done a little bit earlier. This is going to be an inter-team derby. We're watching the replay. It is over, and we've got the verdict from the referees. Let's see it on the screens. Unanimously, the referees resolve that Maxim Sidikh goes to top 16 as an opponent of Damir Idiatulin. Please, let's give a round of applause to Artur Volchansky. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to this pilot from Novosibirsk. And please meet the two Siberians. From Krasnoyarsk, Arkady Tseregradzev versus the guy from Barnaul, Ivan Nikulin, both competing for Fail Crew team. These are very different cars. Nissans, that both used to be very usual ones. Sylvia S13 LT4 for Ivan Nikulin. And the vicious VR 38 Nissan 8-cylinder under the bonnet of Arkady Tseregradzev. 1,000 horsepower against 700. That is a big advantage. But let's see. The weight of the cars together with the pilot is almost the same, 1,260 against 1,280. So I think everything is ready for this battle. Ivan Nikulin versus Arkady Tseregradzev. Arkady will be the leader in the first run of this battle. He was the 5th after the qualifiers. Ivan Nikulin had a more difficult situation in the solo runs. The pilots have been officially introduced, and it is time to start. First come the ladies. We should have brought the brunette girl to Tseregradzev for more contrast, but of course it looks beautiful even this way. The green light goes off. Ivan Nikulin started a little earlier, but this is not a violation of any sort. And here they go to the Furidashi zone. The initiation, that was pretty much careful. Tseregradzev was very careful doing it. But that was quite enough to get forward from Nikulin. But in an uncompromised manner, Ivan caught up with him and found himself very close to his colleague. And here comes the finish. That was a very fast run. This 525 meters have been swooshed. Arkady was 12 kilometers per hour faster during the Furidashi. This is the figure that means really a lot. The angle of Tseregradzev was 100 degrees. That was over 90, almost a backward. But technically, it must have been a backward, but it didn't really look like that. Didn't look that much exaggerated, but you cannot cheat a sensor. It always shows you the truth, and that was what the truth was like. Ivan was catching up with the leader, and that is a great achievement. I'm just wondering what Arkady Tseregradzev is going to do with this speed difference in the next round. He didn't run for a long distance with the maximum angle. Of course, it was changing during the first clipping zone. In the qualifiers, it was 10 points for the line and the angle. But 100-something angles has been registered by DEMS system. That is interesting. And 164 is the new record for the initiation speed. Timofey Kasharny. Hello, now I am with the hero of the previous tandem, Maxim Sidych. Please be just brief. How is it all going? How's your car? How do you feel? Everything is running really well. The cars are new for me. This is actually Katya's car, my wife's car, because mine got burned and the engine was spoiled. So I'm driving Katya's car. It's a little weaker than mine, but I will adjust myself to it. So what is your mood for tomorrow? Well, I'm ready for a good battle. I'm ready for a good ride. Okay, then good luck to you. Yes, luck is what I'm gonna need. I cannot be here in Krasnoyarsk without luck. Okay, Kola, we're done. We are ready to go. The second part of this battle for a place in top 16, Ivan Nikulin versus Arkady Tsarigradsev as a chaser. There is an understeer and he's out of track. This Skyline doesn't give up. Arkady Tsarigradsev is back to the asphalt, running after Ivan Nikulin, even understanding that he has no more chance, just for the sake of drift itself. With an over-the-top angle, Arkady Tsarigradsev finishes the race. But we can see that it was not about the car. The reason was not technical. Let's watch the replay. Yes. Such things may also happen. It would be interesting to hear what Arkady says about it later, because this is not a mistake for a pilot of this level. But I'm happy to see that at least he didn't give up. It's good that he continued to move, and he even made an attempt to catch up with the leader. For the second year in a row, the domestic stage is not the best for Arkady Tsarigradsev. Come on, Timofey, let's listen to what Arkady says. First we'll watch the replay and then we probably hear Arkady. Yes, this is what the referees were looking at, and this is what I missed. Ivan Nikulin was 4 wheels out of track at a certain moment. They're watching the replays. They're watching the replays to judge your results. When you... Arkady, just tell me a couple of words. How did it happen? That was a steering wheel lag. It happens. But how could it be? Yes, how could it be? That is a very good question. I would like to know the answer, but it did happen. Please look that way. Oh, come on, brah. I just wanted to win so bad. The guys are so emotional, that's very easy to understand for both of them. But still, Vanya, wait, guys. We haven't heard the verdict. We haven't heard from the referees. But did you see how I chased after him no matter what? Yes, and that was awesome. You need to fight to the end and never give up. The referees asked for the replay to see more details of what happened on the track. We have seen it all. Here the front wheels of Ivan Nikulin were out of track, but that is not a criminal mistake. And then here comes the moment of truth. Here's an interesting collision. On one hand, the judges allow a compromise in order to catch up with the leader, to cross the white lines, but 4 wheels out of track are 4 wheels out of track. And from this point of view, Ivan Nikulin must have overworked trying to catch up with Arkady. So this is just a food for thought, dear spectators, because once we hear the decision of the referees, we will see what it was about. That is a very aggressive furidashi by Arkady Tsarigradsev. That is an ultra slow-mo because no mistakes are allowed. We need to see very clearly whether all 4 wheels were really outside. Yes, it is not an easy dilemma, but I think one more time could be a good solution. At least it is a chance for Arkady to do it without the steering wheel log. One more time, screams out the audience. This is for everyone who is watching the broadcast, who do not hear this. And over again, we live this moment. We live these moments, but I suspect that one whale couldn't have been outside because there are such, borderlines, situations when you cannot say it for sure with 100% confidence. I think that if the referees asked the pilots themselves, the pilots would definitely agree for one more time, because for Tsarigradsev it would be a chance, and for Nikulin it is just a matter of being a team and a matter of a fair play as such. So this is the moment where all the 4 wheels of Sylvia looked to be outside, but the angle is not the best. It doesn't give us a 100% confidence. So yes, now let's go to the referee's stand, and today we haven't heard any comments from there, so I think this is the right moment. Dmitry Dobrovolsky and his colleagues will now give us some explanations about what happened. Yeah, there is a little technical pause, so let's turn the camera to the referees and applaud to Arkady Tsarigradsev. That is the karma of his home track. I don't know what it's related to, but last year he caught on Dubovik, and this time at least he preserved a place for his team in the next round in top 16. Yes, here we go. Dmitry Dobrovolsky and Alexander Grinchuk.
Ну что, у нас, в принципе, было долгое разбирательство.
After some discussion,
Был очень такой спорный вопрос
I think that it's a
по
disputable
поводу
question
возможного
about
выезда 23-го номера за пределы трассы 4 колесами.
about number
Но дело в том, что
23
мы потом проверили
getting
документы, и
out of track,
именно
but we
вот эта
checked
линия
documents and we saw that the
не
line
была обозначена в судейском задании как
was
граница трассы.
not clearly identified in the
И
referee's task.
хотя Ваня там был
And even though
глубоко и уверенно,
Vanya
но
was
это не
deeply
наша
outside,
граница трассы,
it doesn't really
поэтому
contradict the referee's task.
Аркадий получает 0 за
And
первый
for this
проезд,
reason,
и
Arkady
по
gets
сумме
0,
Иван Никулин выиграл.
and Ivan Nikulin is the winner. So this is a very little twist, a very little detail, that there is a white line, and it is usually a no-go zone, which is a disputable term that doesn't really sound right, especially if you translate it into Russian, but this is a zone where you're not allowed to go. But on the other hand, it wasn't identified in the referee's task as a no-go zone. So that is an interesting turn. We may need it later, so let's just remember it for the future. Now Maxim Grossman versus Nikita Chekov, Irkutsk versus Moscow, 2 Toyotas. Two Toyotas, both with JZ, but Nikita Chekov has a much more powerful car. 900 horsepower versus 740. The volume is 3.4 liters. Grossman is the leader in the first run, according to the results of the qualifiers. And Mark II just goes off into space. And in run, Nikita Chekov is working hard to catch up, trying to get in sync, but neither really works out. And he goes by the next clipping zone, touch and go down. Chekov is approaching, cutting the white line. Grossman goes to the right line. Chekov gets a chance to get closer to his opponent, but no. Only at the finish, he got close enough. Now let's live these moments once again together with the pilots. That is the great power of television. Chekov was even faster at Furidashi, but Grossman happened to be more efficient in the in-run. There was a little understeer for Nikita, and with the transmission, he was a little late, but Grossman committed a mistake in the line, and it is a very serious thing in this situation because it makes the chasing more complicated. And then he switched one more time, and after that it was all nice and clear. If it had been like this throughout the run, it could have been much better, and Chekov could have come closer using his capacity advantage. But what happened with the angles? Chekov just flew by this zone with the angle of 42 degrees only. That is very, very little, but it is clear. It is understandable. It was an attempt to catch up with the leader. What can save Chekov? A perfect run as the leader. Just concentrate and go for it. In the qualifiers, we didn't see it, and we know why, because his car just went off on Furidashi, and the steering wheel failed, and Furidashi didn't happen. And on the second attempt, he just had to compensate. And therefore, on the second run, he had to be more careful, more cautious, and just to make sure that he gets into top 32. That was a success, and Maxim Grossman is his opponent. Let me remind you that Maxim was rated the 12th, and Nikita was rated 21st, and he will meet Ivan Nikulin in the next round of top 16, and we're now in top 32 Black Monster. The pilots are ready for the second run of this heat. The total mobilization. That is what we need from Nikita Chekov at the moment. There is a fog over the red ring. The wind has faded out, and everything looks so mysterious right now. Chekov is now the leader. Where are your 900 horsepower, Nikita? Please show me a good Furidashi. It wasn't good enough. Grossman is jumping after him with his front wheels out of track. Chekov almost stopped before the second clipping zone. I don't really understand how Grossman could handle that, but I think we'll sort it out later. Yeah, the entire torque got dropped off, but let's see what Grossman is doing. He comes so close at the very finish of the racing area. What was with the speeds? 148 for Chekov. The initials, Chekov was much slower than he usually is, because he was at the top of our speed chart. His personal record is almost 162 kilometers per hour, but Telegraphers is, of course, faster than anyone else. But he will not continue the battle because he's already done. Vladimir Chivchan just flew by to the warm-up, and he is gonna have a battle versus Hibino in the Black Monster Top 32. Yes, that was a very serious angle for Nikita Chekov, but he handled that. Maxim Grossman did it right. Really cool. In the third clipping zone, the angle was a little bit more shallow, but the transition was in sync. And he finished very close to Toyota GD6. So now let's see the replay once again. That was a nice, generous flick by Nikita, hanging on the handbrake, going out, still keeping his hand on the e-brake. And the transition into a very deep angle, losing much speed, and the deceleration zone, the allowed deceleration zone, is much further. And obviously that was what gave an advantage to one of the pilots, and the verdict of the referees would be unanimously to top 16 goes the pilot from Irkutsk, Maxim Grossman. Give a round of applause to Nikita Chekov. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. Of course, we will see him tomorrow. But top 16 will run without this two-time champion. Maxim Grossman will go to have an interview with Timofey Kasharny. We have a little break in between the races. Tatsui Hibino was the second after the qualifiers versus Vladimir Chivchan. Vladimir is going to have a difficult time, but for whom may it be easy in RDS? We have said it so many times, there are no weak pilots. All the pilots indeed deserve to be here. Tatsui Hibino versus Vladimir Chivchan. Bova is catching up. The angle is a little bit more shallow, but he doesn't let Hibino-san go away from him. The second clipping zone is done. Vladimir goes a little bit narrower just to keep up with the leader. One more transition. They sink out, but Hibino goes on the minimal acceptable line. But for some reason, at the border between the third and the fourth sectors, the distance grew immensely, which is a great pity, because before Vladimir Chivchan was holding on real well. Yes, almost 10 kilometers per hour was the difference in the speed by the end of the race. And that is just a miracle that Vladimir still managed to hold, and he has been holding in the speed of the leader. Even here, even though the angle was a little smaller, by the last transition, Hibino was a little bit more dexterous. Timofey Kasharny is now with Maxim Grossman. It would be interesting to listen to what Maxim has to say. And we're watching the replay. In the meanwhile, preparing for the next race, Vladimir Chivchan is leaving the pit stop area. And his Supra of Fresh Auto is alone, the one that is driven by Tatsui Hibino. Vladimir is already at the starting line. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that we don't have enough time for the interview. The local time is almost 7 o'clock in the evening, and it's going to get dark real soon. And we have a half to go of top 32, and at least one more time by Denis Migal and Evgeny Spirin. Yes, we're about to start the interviews. We will do later when we have an opportunity. Vladimir Chivchan on the left. And Tatsuya Hibino is with him as a chaser. Hibino's son let Vladimir go first before the transition, maybe thinking that he may perform this element at a higher speed, and this is the way that is happening. The distance is minimal. They are leaving the second sector, running to the third sector, to the external clipping zone. Vladimir Chivchan is kicking to a very narrow line, but the transition is so insane on the back wing of Sylvius 14. Tatsuya Hibino is hanging on his long-nosed Supra. This is the level, this is the skill, this is the experience. This is just an enormous experience that we are now witnessing. Now let's see what DEM system tells us. 149, almost 150 for Hibino versus 141. 150 for Vladimir Chivchan and 141 for Hibino. This is the way it was. But you see it yourself, Hibino is Hibino. Once he caught on Vladimir, he wouldn't let him go until the very finish. And Vladimir, by the end, also made a little mistake. Unanimously, the victory is given to Tatsuya Hibino. We welcome the fresh autopilot in the top 16 and give a round of applause to Vladimir Chivchan. So, alone is left Grigory Chivchan, which is not surprising considering everything that happened during the qualifier and what opponents Denis Ponomaryov and and Vladimir Chivchan had to face. And now Yekaterina Boychenko. The starting line is now empty, but Charles N, that performs for China IMOL Racing, and Yekaterina Boychenko from IMOL Racing Russia are coming up. Her Altezza will be standing on the right. Charles was rated 15, and Yekaterina Boychenko finished the qualifiers on the 18th position. The winner of this tandem run will face the Tatsuya Hibino in the next round. So they were not so far away from qualifiers. So I believe that Yekaterina and Charles can have a very intensive battle for a place in top 16. The pilots are introduced. Charles N versus Yekaterina Boychenko, Altezza and Nissan SR20 against 1JZ. The engine of Yekaterina, yes, is a little bit more powerful, 600 versus 600. And here comes the green light. Here we go. Charles N and Yekaterina Boychenko. The Furidashi, Katya was a little bit late with this element. Her Altezza came too straight. She needs to catch up with Charles. Charles is doing the referee's task in a very careful way. And here comes a third clipping zone under the wheels of Sylvia 14, and Yekaterina is dragging behind. I guess she lacks the experience of being the chaser. 148 against 146 at the initiation moment, with little advantage of Charles. But looking at these numbers, it is hard to believe that Charles let him go that far. These transitions were performed by Charles not that well as he could, and it made it even more complicated for Yekaterina to mimic all the moves of Charles. So what can we say? The advantage is really immense. There is nothing more to say. Maxim Grossman there is standing by Timofey Kasharny, so shall we give them the floor? Guys, this is Maxim Grossman, who 1 round ago won Nikita Chekov and made his way to top 16. So how was that? Everything is cool, the car is ready. Nikita was just having some problems in the process, so we couldn't show such a good battle, but at least I'm in. So see you tomorrow. So who are gonna face in top 16? Vanya Nikulin. So how is it gonna be? I can't wait. All day he's been telling me, come on, let's fight. So let's see how is it gonna be. Let's see what you can show. Thank you, Maxim. Thank you, Timofey. Everything is ready to continue the battle of Yekaterina Boychenko and Charles N. One, 2, 3 reds, and here comes the green. Yekaterina Boychenko is now the leader. She's running forward to the Furidashi zone, so now let's see how Charles is gonna make it. How he's gonna mimic all her moves on the track. This far, they are both doing good. The transitions are in sync. The second clipping zone is left behind. I wish Katya did it when she was the chaser. That would have made her absolutely perfect. She still is, but as a leader, she does it better. She just needs to develop her chasing skill just as good as Charles N in this round. Despite the lack of capacity, 100 horsepower is quite a relevant difference. Charles N managed not to let Yekaterina go, so he was following her and did everything he could. It was not only the capacity advantage of Yekaterina. Charles just ignored this legal circumstance and did it all in a very laid-back manner and a minimal distance. And unanimously, the referees resolved that to the top 16 goes Charles N versus Tetsuya Hibino, and here I have a deja vu for the top 8, so the battles are getting more and more interesting. Damir Diatulin versus Maxim Siddiq, Ivan Nikulin versus Maxim Grossman. Everything is getting very interesting. And now this is the real Krasnodar derby we've been waiting for. I can't tell you that I've been waiting for the other ones less than this one, but this one was the most interesting for me to see because I haven't seen Meteor Mohan in a race for a very long time. And now let's see whether he can put something against Grigory Gusev. Grigory Gusev has a big advantage in horsepower, almost 220 horsepower more. His Nissan and SR20 VT is much more powerful. Only 500 horsepower keeps Meteor Mohan, but it is still enough to do some drifting at this level. The capacity advantage of Gocha is also considerable, but it is not as dominating. Here they go. Let's see these two Krasnoyars. Guys, I know who the favorite is, but it makes it even more exciting to see what's going to happen right here and now on the track. Grigory Gusev is the leader of this run. He is rated 7th after the qualifiers versus Dmitry Mohan, rated the 26th. Let's go. The two cars set off in sync. Mohan is catching Gocha and doesn't let him go and dives into the first clipping zone, and oh wow, he falls out the track with his rear wheels, but he keeps on chasing. In New Orleans style, he cuts off and gets much closer to Sylvius, 15 of his opponent. But Gocha is Gocha. Grigory Gusev is always himself, and it's not that easy to catch him, but Mohan can do that. Right by the finishing line, he practically knocked on the door of Grigory Gusev to say he was there. If not that line after Furidashi, I wish it was in a different way. I wish. But let's say it one more time. Mohan was even a little bit faster, 4 kilometers per hour faster at the Furidashi moment. 147 versus 150 according to the NEMS system. And the angle was also larger for Mohan, 93 degrees versus 80. This is how it was. Now let's see it one more time. Let's see how it was. This is the Furidashi moment. The initiation, and here Meteor Mohan falls off the track for a second. It looked as though this may be the end for him, but Mohan is not that kind of guy just to give up like this. And they do the transition in sync. They switch in sync. That is sad that we couldn't see the entire race in this manner. The fourth sector was really perfect. Let's give a round of applause to Meteor Mohan and Grigory Gusev as well. There is one thing that has been proven. Mohan hasn't lost his speed. Just a more powerful car would solve the problem. Maybe he wouldn't even need to risk it that much at Furidashi that ended up with this lagging behind. But this is not the end of the story. Dmitry Mohan was a little bit late at this start. I think Gocha didn't expect that. So now we need to wait for the leader to get the necessary speed, and here he comes. I don't think that it wasn't an intended move, but they switch in sync. Grigory Gusev does it in the best way he can. Just board to board, everything is just perfect for Dmitry Mohan. Grigory Gusev is performing his brand mark trick that we know as close tandem drift. Bravo, Grigory. There is nothing else to say. They say that Dmitry Mohan is intending to go to the Sochi stage of RDS Grand Prix. I would really like to see that in Sochi. And by it, I mean the combination of Dmitry and his Sylvia. Let's give a round of applause to Dmitry. He has been doing it greatly. He fought so beautifully. Fought against the acting champion of the world. Of course, they know each other since the times when there were no titles, and I guess no one had any titles at the time. But since that time, they know each other. The referee's verdict is unanimous in favor of Grigory Gusev. The guys are greeting each other. They share impressions. Yes, Mohan had only one chance. He had to risk it at the transition, and that's what he did. And now Timofey Koshorny is wandering around with a thoughtful face. Why don't you take a microphone and go to the epicenter while we are having some time before the next tandem comes in? Armen Arutyunyan, it's going to be, and Anton Dobrovolsky in the next heat, and the winner will be the opponent of Grigory Gusev in top 16. Finally, we see the spectators. You're so awesome, guys. Thank you very much. Yes, yes, please wave your hands. Let's see how many there are. And we also have one more stand, and it is at least half full. Here it is, just see it, just see how many people there are. All of them worry about the pilots, all of them greet them. Of course, first of all, they support their pilots. I think everyone has been missing such a performance as a duel of Grigory and Dmitry. Anton Dobrovolsky versus Armen Arutyunyan. Novosibirsk versus Irkutsk, two Siberians. Well, fight for the right to have a battle against Grigory Gusev, who is also a Siberian. And all this will happen very, very soon. Sylvia S15 of Armen Arutyunyan with SR20 engine, 640 horsepower, stroker kit, and it's very similar to JZ under the bonnet of Toyota Chaser, but the Chaser is much heavier, 1,314 against 1,476 kilograms. So almost 1.5 centers is the difference in the weight between the two cars. It may be hard for Anton Dobrovolsky. What else can I say? And also the presence of a same-name guy among the referees won't save him. That is absolutely for sure. Armen Arutyunyan rushes in first and red flag. That was a false start. The first strike for Armen. 3 strike would be the same thing as speaking out and flying out of the track. Timofey Koshorny is standing on duty at the pit lane near the pit stop area. But the pilots are not there for some reason. And now we see the spectators again. How much patience you guys need. I admire you. Because some of them have been here since the very morning. Since 9 o'clock in the morning during the warm-up. There were some people on the stands. Then there came more people. And I'm really pleased to say that the people are coming, not leaving. Armen and Anton are coming back to the starting line. let's try to start once again. So this is the first round. Armen Arutunian now got in a little bit delayed at the start. You know that over 3 seconds also make a stride now, almost wheel to wheel. The participants run in. The first turn is behind. The first transition is in sync. Armen Arutunian makes a little mistake, makes a too deep angle, but he handles the situation and he continues. The chasing goes on. Armen Arutunian goes a little forward by the third clipping zone. Now the cars are getting closer, but still Anton Dobrovolsky fails to cut down this distance, and till the very finish, they get in the same way. Now let's see how it was. One of the cones has been hit, but I guess it doesn't cause any protest from the judges. And there hasn't been any dangerous proximity. And those are not the cones that mark the retarders. Then a hit cone would cause a restart. But here in this situation, if they finished it, then that's okay. Even if Armen can be blamed of anything, I think it is not of that distance. There was a little understeer after the Furidashi transition, and here they were quite close, and then in the high-speed curves it appeared that Sylvia is running away on the asphalt a little better than Chaser. Timofey Kasharny is proudly walking towards our frame space. He comes back with Yekaterina Naboychenko. But I guess they won't have time to talk because the pilots are already on their places. Because first drift, then conversations. Here we go. Almost simultaneously. No, here comes the red flag for Anton Dobrovolsky this time. At a certain moment, I thought that I was mistaken, but the red flag proved me right. Timofey Kasharny and Yekaterina Naboychenko are in front of the cameras. Now she's here. Let's greet Katya. Just tell us a couple of words. How does it feel? It could have been better, sincerely, but I'm just doing the way I can. You know, once I got in Furidashi, I was too close to Charles, and at a certain moment, I could see the face of Dmitry in front of me. And generally, it just went the way it went. So at a certain moment, you were so close to Charles that you saw the face of Dmitry Andreevich in your head. It was not too close, but it was not under real control for the distance that was between us, and it could have been a little confusing. This is why I'm happy that the result is like this. And now my Skyline will go one more time, so I worry about this run even more than about my own. So now, please, let's support the orange Skyline. Yeah, let's do that. And the cars are already on the start. We say goodbye to Katya. Timofey Kasharny and Yekaterina Naboychenko were on air. And now in our screens we see the same tandem of pilots after the false start. Now let's see what's going to happen. The green light goes off. Anton Dobrovolsky starts in a careful way. Now you have to run in and run in and run in. Armen does the Furidashi. He lets the leader go. Yeah, he now needs to catch up, but our man does have the resources for this, and the speed loss is quite serious before the second clipping zone. And he even preferred to get to the inner line, not to let those lines cross. The third clipping zone, board to board, one more transition, and here he lets go and finish. What was with this speed at the Furidashi moment? 146 for the Bravolsky and almost 146 for Armen Arutyunyan. So that is the same speed, basically, within this statistic error. But after they had really to drop the speed. Our men had to go 182 kilometers. That's a pity that in the broadcast you couldn't see Dubovik. On his warm-up run, he just made a very nice initiation. That was a call backward. Almost 100 degrees was the angle according to the system, and 139 kilometers per hour. Not that fast. But the initiation looked so aggressive. And now we see the replay, waiting for the referees to tell us the results. Robin Ishida is for one more time. Green choke is for Armen Arutyunyan, and Dmitry Dobrovolsky supports him. So this way, voting by Dobrovolsky for Dobrovolsky, Armen Arutyunyan goes to top 16. We congratulate him. He's gonna go versus Gocha. We will see two Sylvius fighting against the next round of the tandem runs. And now this is the battle of Anton Dubovik against Edmunds Erglis. That is the backup player of Lukoil Racing HGK Drift versus the last survivor from Fit Service team. Anton Dubovik represents the city of Khabarovsk. And Edmunds is from Riga. And just as Yekaterina said, she worries about this heat, this tandem, because her beloved Skyline R34 is there. Right under the windows of my commentator's booth is Armen Arutyunyan, let go by Timofey Kasharny. Of course, I'm not hinting at anything. Yes, I know that the race is starting, Timofey, but why not keep our men close just for a minute? The pilots are officially introduced. Edmunds Erglis for Golovnya against Anton Dubovik. For a very long time, Anton Dubovik was occupying the top line of the protocol after he got moved by Evgeny Losif and then also Hibino. But it doesn't really matter much at the moment. Here we go, Anton Dubovik versus Edmunds Erglis, running in at the same speed. I wonder whether we're gonna witness a battle between this experienced pilot from Khabarovsk and the former champion of Latvia, even if it was 7 years ago. Erglis is now straightening the line in the second clipping zone, losing speed, letting Anton closer and closer. Edmunds Erglis is fighting on. Here's the last transition, even with a less angle. He doesn't manage to catch up with Anton Dubovik. No matter how paradoxically it may look, Edmunds got one of the most convenient opponents. First of all, he clearly follows the tasks, and secondly, the horsepower's advantage is not that big. The capacity is almost equal. SR-20 is under the bonnet of Sylvia, of Anton Dubovik, and RB. True. A true motor under the bonnet of Skyline. It's all feng shui, all correct. And I'm sure that Katya was almost having a heart attack when Edmunds was having all the chances to run into the door of his leader. We can see it on replay. Four tandems are left to watch in the Black Monster Top 32 round. And minimum one more time. 12 seconds is the pit stop time. 8. No. 5. Edmunds Erglis requests for competition timeout of 5 minutes. We've got the titled competition timeout. So, Timofey, what would you say? Edmunds ran out of gasoline. Yeah, that is a really high-tech operation that couldn't have been done before the run. Okay, whatever. At least nothing is broken. And if Katya was worried, she shouldn't have been. In the next tandem, we've got a truly cold personality. Now we're gonna see from this flying eye of our drone, we can see the gasoline zone where the car of Edmund Erglis is. Nothing so much interesting. The car is just being filled with gasoline, nothing special. And this is the best audience in the world. Just see the best spectators ever. If you're not here for any reason that I don't understand at all, you should be here. 3.5 minutes left, of course. You can do it in 5 minutes easily. There is no intrigue. I really liked that guy. Why did we get distracted from him? Okay, Erglis is coming up. And then the warm-up by Ilya Fedorov and Fyodor Vorobyov was over. Ilya Fedorov, in his blog, calls himself Uncle Fyodor, so that is almost the battle between the same name guys. Anton Dubovik is on the right, and he's the leader. Edmunds Erglis occupies the left lane. The cones divide the lanes between the participants. It is not allowed to go beyond the cones, but even a hit cone doesn't really cause a restart unless there was any dangerous proximity of the cars. So let's go. The green light goes off. Edmunds Erglis is in front. He's the leader. The Fury Dasha is not that fast. The dust mixes with smoke. And one more time, the same cocktail was cooked by the participants of this run. Dubovik doesn't let Edmunds go, just following him. Going after 129 kilometers per hour was the speed. And generally, they are going in a very laid-back manner. And the finish is the same. So what was going on at the warm-ups? 145, 141 for Fedorov and Vorobyov correspondingly. The discussion was not difficult. It was not long, and I understand why. This is evening already. So this is the decision. Anton Dubavik goes into the next round on top 16. Who's going to be his opponent? One of these nice guys, Ilya Fedorov from IML Racing Russia or Fyodor Vorobyov from Fresh Auto. The round of Black Monster top 32 and Red Ring in Krasnoyarsk City, the first stage of RDS Grand Prix 2019. Very, very soon, only one event will be left until the end of this magic season. This is going to be the stage in autumn on the 20th of October. We're going to have double points. So everything is done to make it more exciting until the very last moments. So Ilya Fedorov is coming. He's the leader of the first part of this duo run. Ilya Vorobyov was ranked the 19th after the qualifiers, especially due to the absence of training before, so it is a very good result for him. Over Furidashi. Synchronization, a little straightening that I thought was done by Fyodor Vorobyov, and Ilya is going in front to a distance that I wouldn't say safe because Fyodor Vorobyov is following, sacrificing the angle. He catches up, but still, yes, there was too much air in between the cars at the finishing line, but I wanted them to be closer so bad. So let's live these moments one more time together with our pilots. Ilya Fedorov and Fyodor Vorobyov have competed so many times with each other. Yes, they've been quite careful. Fyodor Vorobyov lost 5 kilometers to Ilya Fedorov, but it is much worse what happened next at the second transition when the Vaz went on almost straight wheels. That was wrong. That was a hard stage for Fyodor Vorobyov. Those who didn't hear that, I would repeat that almost everything that he had just broke down. It all considered the transmission, also the engine, also the water pump that he had to replace in particular. But the main thing is that according to Fyodor Vorobyov, there were no symptoms. So finally he had to do it on his own because he didn't have a mechanic at the moment. So all of that made him lose his energy. They're out of the pit stop zone, Ilya Fedorov and Fyodor Vorobyov. So this is the time of the Fyodor, who is the real Fyodor, not just in his blog. Now this is his time to be the leader, and now let's see what would be the result. There is an advantage in horsepowers on the side of Fyodor Vorobyov, but these are the data for the beginning of the seasons. But how many horses have been lost in the process in the past 4.5 stages? That is a very big question. Ilya Fedorov doesn't let Fyodor Vorobyov go. This is a synchronous for Furidashi. No, Fyodor Vorobyov goes forward, but at the same place he goes straight. The transition to the second clipping zone, and Ilya Fedorov is working hard to catch up with the Vaz of his opponent. He is even cutting off through the internal line. Was there any violation of the line? Let's see it on replay. If there was, that would be a real game against the opponent. I don't think it was intended to be so, but getting Ilya Fedorov would be very hard in any situation, in any possible way. Yes, here he cut it off a little bit through the white line. We can see that Fyodor Vorobyov did that, and then he went straight, hardly losing the speed. Yes, I was mistaken that he didn't get that external point. I think that this was not the major problem. The major problem was what was happening at the very beginning of the second sector. So this is the unanimous resolution of the referees in favor of Fyodor Vorobyov. And it could have been a nice beginning of a success story if everything worked right. But Ilya Fyodorov is a very experienced and a very strong racer who got in the way of Fyodor Vorobyov. And one more vacancy of top 16 was filled by Imol Racing. Ilya Fyodorov will compete tomorrow in top 16, moving to the possible finals, which is a very good for the general position of the Imol Racing Russia in the rating. Let me remind you that this team is the acting champion of RDS Russia. We've got less and less unfilled gaps in the tomorrow's tournament table. We continue with the top 32 of RDS Grand Prix 2019. Grigory Gusev is coming out on track. He has just driven by. That was a warm-up. Every pilot is free to decide how to use these several hundreds of meters. The track keeps on cooling down. 150 kilometers per hour was the Fourier dash speed of Grigory Gusev. And Ivar Mustakimov is his opponent, the main sensation of RMS motorway. Then Ivar Mustakimov got in top 4. But in the battle for the third place, he got on Arkady Tsargradzev, and that was actually the end. Ivar Mustakimov and Grigory Gusev will compete for one vacancy in top 16. And the opponent of the winner will be either Kristaps Blush or Stepan Azarov. And we've got one more tandem run of Evgeny Spirin and Denis Migal, who haven't yet convinced the referees that one of them deserves a place in top 16 more than another. And as soon as the main battles are over, we're gonna watch this one more time. Here comes the official title. Ivar Mustakimov from Kazan and Grigory Gusev from Nakhodka city. Ivar is the leader now. Lexus IS with 2JZ engine versus the huge Chaser with the same engine, 2JZ, which is, has a larger capacity of 700 horsepower versus 500. And even though Chaser is a heavy thing compared to Grigory Gusev, so that is the heaviest car of RDS Grand Prix, 1,481 kilograms. Still, it has a higher capacity of the engine. Ivar Mustakimov is the leader, starts this tandem run. The first clipping zone is left behind, one transition. Here comes the second one on the way to the second clipping zone. Here Grigory Gusev is coming closer to his opponent due to the narrower line with a more shallow angle. He's chasing Ivar Mustakimov, correcting for the better line, as though saying, look, I can catch up with you with a better line, but this is what actually happens. ...141 kilometers per hour versus 154 at the Furidashi moment. Here the Chaser angle was more shallow. You could see it well because Chaser is bright yellow. Here he smoothly moved to an external line and then rushed after the Lexus. of Ivar Mustakimov. So now let's see what's going to happen next. Kristaps Plus and Stepan Azarov is the next tandem, and they are hurried up for the starting line. Because the official sunset is very soon, and it has become already relevantly darker. 1940 is local time. This was a very long day, and it all delays the competition. This is Evgeny Losev, who was the first one to get in the top 16. Grigory Gusev starts moving a little bit too early, and this is the red flag. These are nerves. The nerves are failing him. Kristaps Plus and Stepan Azarov. The warming up is given to Kristaps Plus and Stepan Azarov, not to delay the process, not to extend it even more than it is. And here comes this Nissan 200 XS of Alexander Golovnin. It was not a mistake. The sequential transmission, a very vicious 2JZ engine. .840 horsepower's capacity. And Eva Sylvia S15 with the Lancer Evolution engine. 4G6040. 700 horsepowers can be provided by this engine. And we're back on the starting line. Grigory Gusev and Ivar Mustakimov. The second part of this tandem run. One strike has already been got by Gusev. 3 strikes equals a failed run. As we remember, the green light goes off. Grigory Gusev runs forward. This huge yellow chaser is chased by the Lexus, the first flipping zone. Ivar is having a transition problem. The pilot from Kazan chooses a narrower line, but he should not lag behind. But Grigory Gusev is hurried up by Georgy Simonukov on the radio, is trying to use the potential of his car to the maximum and doesn't let Ivar go closer. Kristaps Plus and Stepan Azarov are coming to the starting line. This is their turn to fight for their place in top 16, but we don't know the decision of the referees yet about Grigory Gusev and Ivar Mustakimov. So that is a huge desynchronization. Now let's have a look at it from the top, from the drone. And here is the referee's decision. We will see it as soon as the replay is over. Kristaps Plus and Stepan Azarov are already at the starting line. Yes, unanimously, Grigory Gusev is the winner of this run, making his way to top 16. Let's give a round of applause to Ivar Mustakimov and switch our attention to the starting gate. where the leader is the pilot of local racing HGK Drift. The champion of Eastern Europe, Kristaps Blush, opposed by Stepan Nazarov, a pilot from Moscow. Not so long ago, he was considered to be a beginner in drift, but now he is a quite an experienced fighter who competes in different series of this short summer season and also doesn't give up in winter. Right here, as far as I know, he does it in Krasnoyarsk quite a lot. The pilots are ready. They exchange gestures with the referee on the start, and Kristaps Blush goes to the Furudashi point. That was fast. And now we'll see how fast it actually was. And here it comes on the full run. Stepan Nazarov crashes into his opponent. It didn't last long, yeah. 158 versus 148 at the Furudashi point in the favor of Kristaps. So let's see what happened there. Kristaps switched, and then, well, this is the case that we've been told about at the briefing by the referees. The deceleration zone between the two first clipping zones officially doesn't exist. It exists before the second clipping zone, which means that you need to move in a equal tempo, but the physics is something that you cannot cancel. And of course, the speed drops naturally, but it must not drop spontaneously like this. But the referee said that the absence of the deceleration zone in this area is not a reason, or the presence of a deceleration zone is not a reason to crash into your opponent with a shallow angle. But this is what happened. At first sight, this is what it was, and now it will take the referees to watch the replays for a long time to sort out the situation, because there are no ready templates, no ready solutions. You just need to sort every situation out individually. This is the replay from the drone. This is what our drone recorded. That was an enormous difference in speed. Obviously, there is -2 suspensions, but no, Kristaps is driving by himself, but it doesn't mean anything. The team members have rushed to the repair zone, to the maintenance zone, with lots of ziplocks. And here's the car of Stepan Nazarov. It needs to be towed away. The second run is under a big question, and the decision who goes to top 16 is up to the referees to decide according to this episode, because if one of the cars cannot continue the battle, if it cannot provide the continue of the battle, then if Stepan Nazarov is considered to be guilty, then Kristaps Blush goes to the next round and vice versa. And then the mechanics will have a whole night and a half a day tomorrow to work on the car. We greet Kristaps. From the pit zones, from the pit stop, Kristaps leaves and goes to the maintenance zone. Obviously, the car needs a major repair. They take the steering wheel off. Edmunds is also there. He has turned back into a mechanic now. He hurries up to help his colleagues. We need to see what happened to the right front suspension. And they check all the lifts. At first sight, it looks operational. But I think anything can happen to be bent. So it's going to be 1 minute interval this far. But it doesn't really make much difference whether it's 1 minute or 5 minutes, because the evacuation of Stepan Nazarov's car is still in process, and he obviously will need the competition timeout. But it will only start after the car is back on its wheels. Yes, the competition timeout of Kristaps begins, and there is nothing so scary about it because today there's only one battle for the pilot of local racing, GHK Drift, sorry. But since this running around doesn't stop, yeah, so this is Ilya Fedorov. Oh, I was running in as much as I could. I was hurrying up, and thankfully my steering wheel didn't lock, and my result was not too bad. But if there are any questions, we will solve it. I remember that you changed your engine yesterday. Yes, we did. We had a backup engine, and for some reason it appeared to be weaker than the main one, so I guess this one hasn't got its complete capacity, so we will have to kick it. Is it VQ? Yes, it's a right VQ, orthodox VQ. Clutch, and let's fly. The turbine is like this. How many horsepowers? The previous one was 540, and this one is just 500. So it has the 500. Yes, it's a good working 500. Thank you, Ilya. Good luck for tomorrow. Let's see how it's gonna work for you. Thank you. And we are back, 180 degrees back. And what do we see here? Here we see the repair of the car of Alexei Golovnin. So hello, if you see us. Everything is fine with your car, don't worry. It's a little bent in some places, but that is fine. So let's see what is happening with the car. As far as I could see from where I was, the rear wheel got bent a little bit, and in the front it just went all over the place, if you see what I mean. So the mechanics, we've got 2-something minutes. So the mechanics are trying to replace the suspension elements, but I think that this is a useless effort. This is not a very reasonable thing to do, but let's wait. Stepan Nazarov is coming, and I'm sure that he also wants to replace something, to adjust something. Wait. Do you want to take the competition timeout? Stepan, wait. Please wait. Stepan, wait, come here. Come over. Come up here. So, what's that? Didn't you see that? Well, we did see the boom, but how was it from inside? I was lagging behind and I wanted to get closer, so I was trying to jump after him. I knew that he was pulling the handbrake, but I didn't expect it to be like that because the distance was quite big. But, well, it went the way it went. So let's hope that it's not that scary. What are the damages? Visually, this is the lever, and this is everything that I could see. We just need to open the bonnet and see. I think the guys will check it out. Do you think 5 minutes is enough? We will open it and see. And together with you, we will open it and see. Thank you. I'm leaving, and let's see the last seconds of Kristaps Blush, of his car repair, I mean. Thank you, Timofey. Thank you for this little correction. That was really timely. We wouldn't like to see the last seconds of Kristaps. I think the competition timeout of Stepan will start soon. He also needs the replacement of the suspension lever. Kristaps is leaving now. I don't know how operable the car is, but show must go on, as all of you know. Haris Koupelis is checking everything. He showed his thumb up, and Kristaps is going to the pre-starting zone. He will have some time to do some figures and to see how the car behaves and what should be corrected about his driving style. So here's the timer. There are real professionals working with Stepan Nazarov. I remember us welding the steering rods in less than 5 minutes and everything worked fine. But yes, the managers show that it is much more serious than we thought it was. This is Stepan Nazarov watching everything. I wouldn't say that the works with the car are really intensive. I suspect that no one is actually trying to get anywhere. I don't see how much time is left. Yes, I guess they are removing. Stepan Nazarov is removing this season hybrid system, which is intended to hold the head, to protect the head from the emphasized moves and keeping the driver safe. This is an obligatory condition for RDS Grand Prix. But generally, we haven't seen an official title about the mechanical failure. But Stepan Nazarov's face doesn't show us any optimism. Yes, that is pretty understandable. Are we going to have a by-run or just the referees will make their decision? Will Kristaps just stay safe and not risk Alexei's car? Wait, we're on air. We're on air now. We're on TV. So you decided not to return. Yes, the car is damaged, not for 5 minutes, but for 5 hours, because besides the front, look at the rear wheels. In front, we need to replace the frame, and there's a lot of work to do. Okay, so I hope that you will do it by tomorrow. Yes, no problem. This is a trifle. It's a piece of cake. It won't even take half of the night. We will finish by midnight, I guess. Okay, then we will wait for the decision of the referees together. Nikolai, what would you say? Everything depends on the referees right now. Like, I do not personally remember what is done if one of the participants is impossible to continue, if he cannot continue the battle, and if it is obvious whose blame it was. Would the second run take place? But now I think we will figure it out and provide you with all the information. Stepan Nazarov was late at the in-run and started to run after very intensively. And yes, he did catch up, as all of us could see. Now the referees have to make the decision who was to blame in this collision. This situation is kind of ambiguous. Let me remind you of the main thesis. On one hand, Kristaps was really losing speed, and we can say that he did lose the speed more than it was supposed to be in this place long before the deceleration zone was closed. But on the other hand, it doesn't really excuse the actions of Stepan Azarov, who was moving with a shallow angle. And he just pierced his opponent with his car. And the speed difference, according to the DEM system, was not that big. But I'm not sure how much I can trust it at this moment. So let's see the Furidashi moment one more time. Kristaps was faster, almost 10 kilometers per hour faster than Stepan Azarov. Stepan Azarov began to cut through the internal line, which is easy to explain. The only thing that he should have done to avoid such a situation is to drop the speed on time, for example, with a deeper angle. And the angle was actually quite deep. At least at the beginning, at the first phase of the accident. The situation is not nice in any case, and we have one more time to see, if you remember. Poor Eva Sylvia. And we haven't heard anything from the referees. This is not a rare situation that requires a very thorough analysis from the referees. We remember the case when we had lots of debates in the previous time, but then it looked kind of clearer. Yes, sight was mistaken. But Joseph was going on the wrong line with a shallow angle. And he had no right to do so. And by the way, it also happened outside the deceleration zone. The deceleration zone, excuse me. It was a really long day, and here's some information for the audience. Gray backpack with orange stripe was found. Please address the organizers. So if the backpack is yours, you can find it behind the stands. Kristaps is now at the starting line. Everyone is waiting for the referees to issue their resolution. So we are interrupting for 1 or 2 minutes of advertising, and then we will be back to the Red Ring.
Да вот документы, все чисто. Проверяйте.
Уже проверили.
Что машина в залоге.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Да у нее пробег почти нулевой. Посмотрите.
А мы уже смотрим.
Что пробег скручен.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Ни единой царапины. Видите?
Ага, видим.
Что она была в ДТП 5 раз.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Welcome back to the Red Ring. We continue the Black Monster Top 32 round of the 5th stage of RDS Grand Prix 2019. We are currently on the waiting stage. We are in the break once again, over and over again. We're watching the replay of this episode that has become critical in the battle between Kristaps and Stepan. One of them is supposed to go to top 16, but we do not yet know who of them it will be. I hoped so much that we could avoid such episodes. There were some contacts during the training sessions, but they were quite harmless. The worst thing was the broken steering rod. Speaking about the damages during contacts, collisions. But of course we've had different things like fires. Two cars in red and white colors. Autoprofi has a more cherry tone, which looks especially romantic in the twilight. It's 20:08 local time. The official sunset time is 2020, which is real soon. And due to the headlights that are on, as you can see, it is pretty dark, and the smoke is making the situation even worse. Another problem is that the temperature of the asphalt is changing with every minute. So if anyone has to go now, there won't be one more time. There would be problems. So you just have to follow your intuition. As far as I can see, the referees are still discussing. They cannot reach one decision on who should be considered the guilty one. So let's think over it together with the referees. You can choose one of the racers and you can present your arguments. The more I watch it, the more details I can see. The more details there are that I want really to plunge into. I think that if Stepan didn't collide into Kristaps, I think he could have spinned out completely. Maybe he should have accelerated or at least maintained the speed to do the transition and to fit into the next clipping zone, but it wasn't done, it didn't happen, so there are lots of things to think over. There's one more problem. According to the regulations and the rules of judgment, there is no such concept as the mutual guilt. So one of the participants needs to bear the responsibility. This is not ordinary traffic rules and a collision at the traffic lights. And now let's see it from above. Yes, we can see that Kristaps has lost a lot of speed. And a lot has been said, but it wouldn't be a reason to crash into him like this. Someone else would argue with me, saying by why would he drop so much speed at the place where Stepan Azarov trying to catch up with Kristaps would definitely accelerate. And it really contradicts the logic of the referee's task. So I think these are the arguments that can be presented. And this is what the referees are now considering. But what we don't have in our regulation is the regulation for the referees' resolutions. I think that would be the next evolution stage of our competitions. A lot has been regulated. The maintenance works, the repair, arrivals of the pilots, and after the semi-finals, the times of departure. Now it is the waiting time after the semi-finals is reduced to 10 minutes. But a lot has been done to keep this process dynamic, but no one is insured against these accidents, and we should understand the responsibility that lies on the referees at the moment. I heard the words I've been waiting for so long, but then the signal went out. I think that whatever the referee's resolution is, we need to switch to the referee's stance and listen to their reasons. Let's see what they think it was and what should be done at the end. All right, so we see the resolution, and we should switch to the referees who are on their stands and listen to what they have to say, what reasons they may present, and what they were guided with to make this resolution. Stepan Azarov is the winner, goes into the top 16. Now I would like to listen to the referees if we have a technical opportunity, and I believe that we had it. Alexei Vishnevsky standing there. All right, so this is the tent of the referees, and Dmitry Dobrovolsky, who I'm giving the floor. Can you see me like this? Guys, we apologize for making you wait for such a long time, but the thing is that the situation was so delicate that making the final solution was hard. On one hand, we spoke that if the second one catches up with first one on the narrow line, that is his fault. But on the other hand, we took a careful look at the telemetry of the qualifiers of the both cars, and we found out that the speed loss was critical. It was 14 kilometers per hour difference at the moment. Which is a very serious difference, and compared to the own qualifier's speed, that was very considerable. And the speed of Stepan Azarov was exactly the same as during the qualifiers, so he had the feeling that if there was no Kristaps on the way, he would have just flown through this area, and this is what guided him. This is why both me and Alexander Grinchuk, we decided to take this decision. So I think that this was the blame of the leader. That was his fault, because also his angle
was very big. It was a 60 degrees difference versus 20 degrees of Stepan. And now Alexander will give you some more reasons. Sincerely, we almost had to invent new judging methods. Particularly, at first we said that if the chaser crashes into the leader as like a torpedo, that he should be blamed. But there were several more factors that interfered. So I was counting the mistakes. Kristaps went 2 wheels outside the track and lost a lot of speed beyond the deceleration zone. And we have to consider every situation individually. Stepan Azarov didn't go that far beyond the track, and he was... So Kristaps committed 2 mistakes versus 1 mistake committed by Stepan. So I relied upon the simple mathematics, because both of them committed some mistakes. But in this situation, as far as I can understand, the mistakes of Kristaps are more critical, and there are just more of them in number. And let our colleague give his alternative point of view.
All right, so we had to make the call because there was no second run, number 1, and number 2. The first run ended very, very early, and we went on whose fault it was. And based on who we thought, or the fault, we had to assess fault to whose fault it was. And based on that, that's why we made the call.
Unfortunately, we couldn't see the second run, and the first was over so soon that we had to decide whose fault in the crash it was, and that was the most difficult part.
So we had to actually pick one car, and I know that we saw Bluss starting to over-rotate when he was going into the second sector, and that was very obvious because he was kind of offline on the first sector as well. But at the same time, the chase car was actually beelining it and going straight into it. So it looked like he had a little bit less angle going towards the car, and it kind of happened at the same time. So the opinions kind of changed, but I think we made the right call.
After we saw the replays, it was obvious that the leader was in such an angle that he was close to spinning out, and despite the fact that the chasing car with a shallower angle and 2 wheels beyond the track was running after, it was quite doubtful, but nevertheless, we are sure that our decision was right.
Just the reason why I kind of leaned towards that was because we want to see the chase car actually mimic the lead car. So he was way offline from the chase car, and I know the lead car wasn't running the right line either, and he was kind of over-rotating. So if the lead car, or I'm sorry, if the chase car was a little bit more closer and running the similar lines, I don't even know if the collision would have been this extreme, but as of now, this is a call we had to make, so.
Да, и вот как раз
Robbie partially explains his opinion on the second racer being to be blamed, because the task of the chase car is to mimic the movement of the lead car, and Stepan didn't do this at this moment, and he was cutting the line under a harder angle, and if he had been mimicking the movements of the lead car, the collision would have been that extreme, and probably we could have seen something after, but nothing can be changed already. I hope that now everything is clear for all of us. Yes, we lost a lot of time, both the decision and the explanations, to make it clear to everyone, but we can only sympathize Kristaps, because for 2 stages in a row he loses at the very early
stage, but this is sports, and sport can be different. And you saw that there was no unanimity in the referees panel, and every referee is right in his own way. Every opinion can be substantiated and supported with arguments. So Stepan Azarov is gonna repair his car with his mechanics and prepare for the tomorrow's battle. And we have one more time. And at the starting line we see Evgeny Spirin and Denis Mikal, the last vacancy in the top 16 for tomorrow. And the opponent of Evgeny Rozhenikov will be now determined in this battle. Let me remind you that one more time means that at least 2 more runs we will have to witness. In the same order, first Evgeny Spirin will be the lead car, Denis Mikal will chase, and then they're going to switch the roles. What do we lack for this is just a command from the chief of race. He was just here explaining to us what happened in the previous run, and here we go. So that's a warm-up. Yes, the conditions seem to have changed. Yes, and though they said that there wouldn't be any warm-ups, but due to the changed circumstances, this also seems like the right decision. Okay, so they have tried the road with their wheels. That is the right thing to do before the battle that we hope will be the last. Here they are, you can see them on your screen. Denis Mikal and Evgeny Spirin. Evgeny Spirin as the lead car will start the second run. Now it looks much better on the screen than in reality. This is the magic of our video technology that enables us to see and imagine that it is still daylight. I think only here you can see how dark it actually is. The first clipping zone is behind. Evgeny Spirin goes on the narrow line once again, and he has the right to do this. Switching to the hills, the BMWs, they're in the line. The Fresh Auto team. Oh, this transition is a little too long for Denis Mikal, but he's catching up with Evgeny Spirin. This time they're in sync, but the distance between the cars has expanded. And here is the finish. I don't know what the pilots can see from their seats. In this twilight and the smoke. That must be tough. I'm more than sure. And of course the speed is dropped. 131 for Evgeny Spirin, 124 for Denis. Yes, here Denis Migal with his front wheels went out the white line, but he had the right to do so. Here he got really close. The angle of the BMW was a little bit more shallow. And here, if they managed to switch in sync, it would just have been brilliant. But this is also not bad. But in this sector, for the front wheels, got beyond the white line again. This is not critical, but this is what we call compromise. A compromise is a way to avoid a worse mistake, which is a lag, by a smaller mistake. On one hand, it may be your way to the victory, or if Yevgeny doesn't do the same mistake, he may be announced to be the winner. If no one made mistakes, we would have never had this one more time. The green light goes off. I think BMW moved a little bit faster, but was not critical. No red flags right now. And they rush forward to the Furidashi point. The Furidashi of Denis is very aggressive. What is with the speed? 144 for the lead car. And now Spirin doesn't let Denis go. There's a little gap in between the cars. The transition to the third gripping zone is so synchronous. The last transition of this race and the finish. The cone is in its place. No one hit it. And yes, maybe it was too early to exit from the first zone. A little bit correction before the transition. Here it was also quite narrow. And here it was also a little bit too narrow. Too many mistakes for the lead car in the too expansive and too valuable zones. In the qualifier terms, one was kind of diagonal and the other one was completely smashed. So let's wait. If the referees lack the information once again, there will be one more time after the replacement of tires, because these tires cannot stand more than 3 runs. And if 2 more runs are not enough, then we will have to make a decision on the basis of the qualifier result, and then Yevgeny Spirin will be the winner, just because he's a good guy who did a nice job. So the referees are requesting for the replay. And let's watch it one more time. I don't see any reason why. Let's see how Spirin went as the leader. Now this is the second run. Yes, so he slipped away on the e-brake from the first clipping zone. That was Denis Migal. And here's the first run. Now let's see Spirin as the leader. Wide here, stretched through all the zone. Here it was narrow, but that is possible, acceptable, no problem. Here he also fit in. Here too, on the third one. The third one was also fine. Yes, I guess he went straight too early. He could have done it for a longer period. Yes, so there is a decision from the referees. There will be no one more time. Yevgeny Spirin occupies the last vacancy in top 16. Let's give the last round of applause to Denis Migal. At the 5th stage, his battle is over. And this is all for today. In this thick twilight, I want to thank everyone who was at the stands until the very last moment. The tandems of top 16 you can see on the screen. Yevgeny Losov, Dagasait, Evgeny Ruzheynikov, Yevgeny Spirin, Damir Dyaturin, and Maxim Sidych, Ivan Nikolin, and Maxim Grossman. Tezui Hibino, Charles N, Yevgeny Chevchanarman, Rutunyan, Anton Dubavik, Ilya Fedorov, and Grigory Gusev with Stepan Azarov will compete tomorrow. We start at 13 o'clock, 1 p.m. With the opening ceremony of the second day. We will introduce the pilots to you once again, and then without the autograph session, at 14 o'clock, at 2 p.m., we will start the tandem runs of IMO Top. We thank everyone who was here with us. I thank everyone who watched us on the YouTube channel. It was Nikolai Swistun. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Документы, все чисто. Проверяйте.
Уже проверили.
Что машина в залоге.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Да у нее пробег почти нулевой. Посмотрите.
А мы уже смотрим.
Что пробег скручен.
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.
Ни единой царапины. Видите?
Ага, видим.
Что она была в ДТП 5 раз?
Скачай автору и проверь историю перед покупкой.